into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello, Librarians fans. Welcome to the Librarians AfterBuzz After Show. I'm your host, Yael Tygiel. With me today, special guest host, Tauri J. Miller.
Hey, glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We are talking about the Librarians and Santa's Midnight Run. A crazy Christmas adventure. That's what it was.
It was.
Crazy Christmas adventure.
Just like how you said it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the 20s.
That's how I feel about Christmas. Sure. So let's talk about Santa, because we get this really interesting, I want to say kind of a historical perspective on Santa.
Right.
A little bit. We get to meet different incarnations, and we learn about how Santa, at least in this world, is a idea as opposed to the man that we know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get that line where he's like, none of the pictures are of me, but they're all of me.
I don't look like any of the pictures, but all the pictures look like me.
Right.
That's the line.
Yes.
Yeah, I was paying attention.
I was going for the theme of the line. But but you get a really interesting, I feel like the show has a little bit of edutainment factor to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stuff that is actual factual, you're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then they mix in a bunch of the magical stuff.
Yeah.
So this was really a good, shining example of that, where you get this sense of the Norse mythology and the other, I forget which one, the mischievous
prankster
one. Yeah.
I don't recall if they said which mythology that came from.
Yeah. But you get all the different varieties in this one depiction.
Yeah. I loved it. I wanted to see more because, we're all used to the fat jolly man with the beard and the red suit and the sleigh and the, reindeer, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So to hear all these other stories is so interesting and so fun. I would have loved more different cultures, more non-English speaking cultures. That would have been so great. I like also that he has a wife named Gretchen.
Yeah.
Because, for those who aren't watching TV this month, they're all over. All of the Christmas movies are everywhere. And of course, in Mrs. Claus, or the Santa Claus 2, he has to find a Mrs. Claus.
Yes.
So I was like, I've seen this movie. So fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, not that the name is important, but the name changes from person to person. But I like that this one was super duper naggy and just like, where's my husband at?
That is fun, yeah.
Though I was hoping that she would come into the episode and help them. It would be like a special guest star, someone cool as Mrs. Claus.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially because they got Bruce Campbell to be Santa, which is awesome. I know a lot of the fans were tweeting about how cool it is to see him in a different role from Burn Notice, which is what I think a lot of the fans now are familiar with.
Right. Not like his Evil Dead stuff.
No. And to see him be Jolly Santa, who speaks in third person.
Yeah.
And needs to hoe 3 times.
Otherwise, it'll get stuck in his head, of course.
Yeah. I just imagining that, because every time she cut him off, I imagine that in his head, he was like, ho, ho, ho. Like he just needed to just what? Ho. I just need to say it. That's what I imagine. It's
I was hoping he'd start finding other ways to do it. So he'd breathe on the window and be like, oh, that's it.
That would be so funny. Let's talk about the car. Speaking of breathing on the window. Sorry. Yeah. It just, tiniest detail. The car that they are in London, she's driving on, it's it's an American car.
Yeah.
She was in London in an American car.
Right.
Which then took them to Canada, where it was correct.
Okay.
But it wasn't backwards when it was in London. She was on the American driver's side.
Yes.
In London.
Right.
Where she should have been on the London driver's side.
Cars get imported all the time. I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
I'll take
totally.
it. It was
super
just,
duper
it just
magic
really
thing.
bothered me a little. Like it was just this little. It was a hoe stuck in my head.
Stuck in your yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what that was.
okay, I thought you were gonna bring up the plane thing. There was a little hidden little message on the plane.
The
CXMA
Yeah.
in 4-5.
Yeah, I did see that.
Christmas.
It did look like it said that. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I totally noticed that. Speaking of other Christmassy things that they throw in there, Poison to Santa is a dart with mistletoe, poinsettia, and holly.
Mm-hmm.
These are the plants of Christmas. Put them in a dart and it's poison. Love that idea.
Yeah.
How genius. And then let's talk about this goodwill hope situation.
Okay.
So Santa is this idea that throughout the year does all these acts of kindness. He's an avatar of goodwill. He collects and absorbs kindness. And then on Christmas, he releases that energy, recharging our karma batteries, as it were. What do you think about this concept?
I think it's an interesting concept. However, like it kind of falls a little short for me because it's like I get that. I guess for me the implication is that humans are inherently bad creatures, so we have to have this external force come in and essentially give us kindness instead of us finding it within ourselves. So for me, that kind of like. I guess me wanting to have give humans the benefit of the doubt. I don't necessarily jive with it, but I think it's an interesting concept.
I think it bothers me on a different level in that I feel like every year around the holidays, Ezekiel points out that's why people get cranky is because they're running low.
Yeah.
But everyone I know around the holidays becomes more. Like they become kinder in that like everyone's like, you know what, we should do that. Like we should do a toy drive. We should donate clothing. We should do all these things. And they become, I feel like people become nicer to strangers specifically around the holidays. They're like, oh, the year's almost over. I have to do a good thing.
I am morally obligated to at least kind of get something in there. Well, I feel like it's this double-edged sword where, yes, more people are being kind, but at the same time, you feel the weight of, like, if you are in a lonely situation, you feel it more. If you can't be with the people you love or have no one that you feel close to, you feel it a lot more. So, like, this is a more kind time for people, but it's also a very big jump in people committing suicide.
Right.
Not to get all dark or anything, but like...
No, and we will get all dark later.
So, I mean, it's two sides of the same coin.
I like the idea that Santa is actually this absorber of kindness. There's like, you did something good. I feel so energized. But then by the end of the night, he's like exhausted from holding all this weight. And then I even think it's so clever that it's not just that he returns goodwill, that his gift is that when you do something good, it gives people hope. I'm like, that's beautiful. What a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
It's pay it forward, but with,
like cheer and
Yeah.
Christmas hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's, for those, I'm going to keep bringing up movie references.
Yeah, go for it.
In Elf, with Will Ferrell, he says the best way to spread Christmas cheer is sing loud for all to hear. So it's like that. It's, you do something good so that other people see it and then they feel like, oh, I should do something good.
Right.
So it's his singing is what it is.
Yeah. And it's something that we as people can do as well. Like, I mean, every time you do something good, not like with the hopes of getting something out of it, but just to do well, like it's fulfilling. Like one thing that they say is if you're ever feeling super duper down in the dumps, do something for someone else because it'll enrich your soul. So it's like that concept.
Yeah. Well, when we get down to it, Santa is too drained and sick and whatever, and he needs someone to do it. He needs someone who has such a connection to Christmas. And we get this story of Baird, and we'll talk more about Baird's character throughout this episode, but she then goes and splinters through the world to give hope. And I'm going to say it.
Yes.
It was so Doctor Who. It was so Clara. I felt like I was like, I've seen this.
Yes.
With a short brunette as opposed to a tall blonde.
Yeah, that's what I wrote in my notes. I was like, splintered across space and time, you say.
Yeah. For those who haven't seen Doctor Who, it's been 3 episodes that I've been here saying shame on you.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
Also, slight spoiler alert, if anything. We haven't said anything specific, but
right.
Whatever. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. All right. So I liked this idea that she goes and helps people. I feel like it was very clearly taken from something. And it was a nice way to see what happens to Santa as opposed to him getting in his sleigh and delivering gifts, is to see this other completely different thing.
Yeah. Because, and the good thing about it, I guess, is that like the concept of Santa delivering all these presents is he's going, here, have this physical thing that you can love or not love, whatever.
Right.
But in this, it's like, hey, have this thing that like helps people in the long run. It's not tangible. It's not something that we can all like look at and go, this is a thing that Santa gave me, but
Right.
it's something that we can all feel.
And it's also something that you need.
Yes.
Whether you know it or not. And I think it was a really nice sequence to see Baird with the EMT, with the fireman, with the girl at the protest, the woman drinking, the almost suicide.
Yeah.
It got me a little emotional.
I could imagine. I loved the moment where she saw herself helping both people.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, they both needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And watching that scene, I was like, wait, which one is she gonna? She needs to be touching the other one. Oh, okay, I see it. I see it. So, in my mind, at least, in all the scenarios where there were multiple people, she was with more than one of them. Mm-hmm. And I like, seeing it and going, oh, she's everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
Clara, she's everywhere all at once. Yeah. So before we move on to the characters and the rest of this amazing episode, I want to take a moment to talk about iTunes. Guys, thank you so much for listening and downloading and streaming and liking and favoriting and plus oneing and all of those things and adding stars. We appreciate it. I know Sam, who is not here right now, she is with her family, appreciates it.
Yeah. Speaking for Sam, you guys are great. I love hearing all your comments and stuff.
Thanks.
Yep.
But because you guys are so amazing, we have some shout outs. So first I want to do a shout out to everyone who commented on YouTube. People, you guys have such smart comments. And I said this when I talked to John Kim. The users or followers and watchers of this show are smart.
Yeah.
And they ask smart questions and they have interesting, clever things to say. And that's so rare. So thank you. It is so rare. But also, we have 3 iTunes reviews.
Nice.
Amazing. 4th episode of the show, 3rd episode of the after show. 3 reviews. So the first one, you get a shout out. That's what you get for doing it. Is for Techno Griffin, who said, best title ever. How did they not know Rebecca Romaine was hot? Great question. How did they not know? He says, I love the 2 episodes. I think he was talking about the premiere. I love the 2 episodes feeling like a single mega episode. It felt very natural and gave them time to fit in things without rushing. Though I had to laugh at the reveal, in air quotes, at the party that Rebecca Romaine is hot. Yeah, I agree. She is hot. How did they not be like, oh.
It's the pantsuits, I think.
I mean, we said on the last show that she needs to stop wearing her hair in a bun. But yeah, we won't get it, but I would love to see a crossover with Grimm. Agreed.
That'd be cool.
Agreed. They're in Portland. Also, great first podcast. Great insights. Thank you. Tony Movie 1979, or Tony Movie, spelled M-O-V-I, says, great after show for a hopefully long new series. Agreed. He says, great job. Awesome. And we got another one from Bayfan74. I'm going to go with Bayfan is also a Switch to Birth fan. That's a guess right there. Says, great start. big Leverage fan and was a big Librarian movie fan. The after show should have watched the movies. We agreed. We are fixing the problem.
Right.
Also, we need more Noah Wyle as the show goes on. Yes. Everyone agrees. Noah Wyle, important and necessary. Thank you guys so much. So if you like our show and want a shout out also, go on to iTunes and rate and review us. iTunes. Rate and review us anywhere you can. If you like us, thank you. Give us 5 stars. If you don't like us, we understand. That's a thing.
Yeah.
We will take 4 stars. We will accept that. That's
Yes. Yeah. Humble acceptance.
yeah. We'll deal. So the episode starts with somebody very much into Christmas, Cassandra.
Yeah.
And we keep getting more little snippets of everybody's backstory. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this episode mostly tried to focus on Baird, but I feel like we still didn't get enough of her backstory and where she came from. But Cassandra, who loves Christmas because she wasn't allowed to love it as a child, because it was supposed to, her parents thought it distracted her, and they told her very early on.
3 years old.
Yeah.
How dare they?
Here's the thing. Maybe I don't understand that, but like I always knew because we didn't celebrate it.
Right. But for kids who celebrate Christmas, like usually you wait until at least like 6 or 7 until they're like, okay, the concept or like I don't need this extra concept to bring me joy. It's like, okay, I'm a regular person. My parents are bringing me presents. Mm-hmm. Whereas like little kids, it's the same reason why we tell them fairy tales and small stories. It just gives them stuff to believe in, gives them reasons to behave a certain way. It's all essentially story manipulation. But still, it helps them learn morals is the reason.
I feel like you can tell kids fairy tales and stories and them knowing that it's not real, and they'll still learn the same thing. I say that as someone who grew up knowing. I also, because of Santa, was told that the tooth fairy didn't exist as well as a small child.
Right.
Whereas all my friends were like, the tooth fairy gave me money. And I was like, no. Which I'm going to say is really dangerous to tell. It's really dangerous for some kids to know the truth and some kids not.
Well, yeah. It's like telling kids the concept of death early, because by telling them that Santa isn't real or the Tooth Fairy's not real or the Easter Bunny's not real, you're essentially killing those characters for them. Mm-hmm. And so it's terrible. You're doing it's not your place to like rip that from them.
I disagree. I think it didn't change anything about my idea of what life was and morals and whatnot.
But you didn't have anything to compare it to. Like if you say, for example, believed in not that I'm arguing this for the sake of argument, okay. Because I feel like I sound like I believe in Santa still.
a little bit.
But I don't. I just think it's an interesting concept of like parents teaching this to their children.
I just don't see the point of, just thinking about it as a kid, knowing that presents are delivered to children.
Right.
Who cares if your parents got you this gift that you requested, or if a mythical, magical being got you this gift? Especially, I'm going to sound so terrible, and I don't want to offend anyone who's super into Christmas, but like, there's this creepy man who, first off asks you to sit on his lap, and then he breaks into your house and eats your food.
Well, yeah, as a grown-up, you see it that way because we understand the dangers of the world. But as a kid, you're just like, it's all magic. Like, for them, it's just a way of like helping increase their concept of the creative world outside of their own existence. Like, it's just, hey, kid, here's magic. Here's this being that does all these wonderful things. You can feel free to believe in him if you like. But like, you don't have to, but still, magic, it's a thing.
Okay.
Christmas magic.
Let's move on to...
Anyway, yeah, that was a lot longer than I intended it to be.
No, that was great. I'm glad we talked about it. Because Santa as an adult, when you look at things, it's a little creepy.
Oh, yeah, no, it's completely.
There's some creepy factors. All right, so Stone... who apparently speaks Cockney, and I don't even want to talk about how offensive I think that might be. His family memories are getting together with your family. His Christmas memories is that, and that he likes to go to the bar and play pool and sometimes get into bar brawls. I know that a lot of bars are open on Christmas.
Yeah.
I can, in fact, tell you what bars are open on Christmas, but I feel like he made it sound like that's a thing that, like, in his town, that's what you do, is you have dinner and then you all go to the bars.
Yeah.
Is that, like, a thing that people do?
Maybe. I mean...
I hope someone from Texas can tell us, because that's where he's from.
Yeah.
Not just because I was like, Texas would do this. Yeah.
I would assume, like... I mean, because... lots of places, especially if you grew up in like small towns, have like their local pub where people like to gather and congregate. And so I assume that they have their one place and it's open during the holidays and it's like, oh, this is my family pub that we all love to go to and I grew up there.
Yeah.
So that would be my assumption. Otherwise, like, they're just breaking into bars
and
playing pool and fighting. Owner comes back the day after Christmas and is like, what happened here?
I would believe that as well. That seems like something that Stone would do with his family. Yeah. We also find out that, you know, he's kind of, Stone is kind of appreciated in his art history role, especially we hear from Dulaque, who's like, oh, I've read your work. And Santa is like, oh, I'm familiar with you and your other incarnations.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really hope we get more of that, more about his other persona.
Yeah.
As well as more about, he makes a very quick reference to, you know, Christmas is when I see my cousin. I was like, who is this cousin? What's special about this cousin? I want to hear about this cousin. It may have been just, you know,
just like a throwaway
line, but it also may be something amazing.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Like maybe his cousin is another like potential librarian or something.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
His cousin could be the only person who knows that he's a genius.
Yeah.
And then we have Ezekiel, who loves that valuables are available, are readily available, and he knows that they're there because they're wrapped. I totally get Ezekiel. And his Christmas wish was to find out, maybe for a minute, would it be nice to be a good guy? And I was like, oh, this is such a leverage moment.
Yeah.
So leverage. But I want his backstory. I want to know what his family does on Christmas and who his family is. Oh, I want Ezekiel questions.
He's the biggest mystery of them all at this point. Because everyone else, we started where they were.
Right.
But he just kind of showed up and was like, hey, I'm a thief.
Yeah.
And that's all he'll really say about himself is that he's a thief.
And he's Australian.
Yes.
Which, for those who don't know, it is summer in Australia, which I like. I grew up with a girl who was Australian, and she would always tell us how, like, it's weird for her that when we imagine Christmas, we imagine snow.
Yeah.
And when she imagines it, it's everyone at the beach. It's like 100 degrees. And so I thought he would make some sort of reference, some sort of mention to the fact that everywhere they went had snow. You know, Australia.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he's been in America or this side of the world long enough to where he's probably made all those jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He hasn't made them to us.
Next episode, he'll turn to the camera and be like, it's snowing in Australia. In Australia.
And everywhere else. The Northern Hemisphere. All right. Colonel Baird, who hates Christmas.
She does.
Yeah, she does. What? I like it. I like that she hates Christmas.
I know. I think you like it too much.
No. We get this backstory of her. We get two kind of backstories. We get the one from Santa and the one that she gives.
Yeah.
Is that she's spent so many years out in wars doing awesome things. And she, every Christmas feels that, you know, these people get together and they talk about how they're here together and they, you know, we're a family, even though my family's not here and everything's so sad. And she also talks about how hard it is to see people, you know, across the world from their family dealing with things that they don't want to be dealing with. They don't want to be there. They don't want to be fighting during a time when everyone's talking about goodwill and kindness.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so she's basically saying that, like, no Christmas miracle is going to end their suffering.
Yeah.
So there's no real point in it, which I thought was a good way to kind of establish so that when she did go around fixing people's problem or giving them hope to help them push through their issues, I thought that was a really nice way to bring that back around.
Yeah. It was really great, really well constructed idea of why she dislikes Christmas and where we end up. But also there's this little nugget of her family, and that she's named Eve because she was born on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder who her family is. Like that may sound wrong, but I mean, like, what kind of family is this that she came from that is such a vital thing?
Right.
I want more info.
I mean, we know that it's been implied that she's from a military family. Maybe it's
Santa says that she moved around a lot as a child.
So, I mean, maybe it was a really, like, maybe they were on, like, missions all the time. So they were a bit highly religious family, super celebrated Christmas, but that would also explain why she's seen so much, like, disaster and, like, sadness. Because if you're on those mission trips, you're essentially going to try to help people, so you're surrounded by sadness.
So you think that she was more on a mission, like, her family was more missionaries than military?
More missionaries than military, yeah.
Interesting.
Or military missionaries.
That's interesting. Huh. I thought she was in this strict military, like, I could see her coming from like a single parent military, lives with her dad. It's just her. She got sent off to military school. Well, he traveled and whatever. So that's why it was I was like, why would they name her Eve? Anyway, it was an interesting backstory. We got a little bit of info. And everybody this episode, we got a little bit.
Yeah.
And I want more. I keep saying that, and I want more. Speaking of backstories I want more of, let's talk about the Serpent Brotherhood.
All right.
So we've got Lamia again and Dulaque, whose name we didn't know until now. And there was the greatest comment, little nugget, throwaway line, that Jenkins goes, "Is that what he's calling himself now?" What?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Rich history.
Yeah.
In watching these episodes, like from the first episode, I was like, he is basically like a librarian, but evil. So he's like the master of librarians.
Yeah.
By that, it's a Doctor Who reference for anyone who doesn't watch Doctor Who.
Which, shame on you. Say it again.
Yeah, basically. But yeah. So that is kind of the concept that I've been getting from him, is that like he is like the librarian. Lamia is his guardian, and they travel together doing their evil misgivings.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that like he is either like a former librarian or one that like was in the rankings, someone was chosen over him, so he decided to do his own thing.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I know that in the first movie, in the first movie, the bad guy was a former librarian who was supposed to have died. And he went over to the Serpent Brotherhood. Okay. So maybe that is where the Serpent Brotherhood is like getting their leaders. Yeah. As they're taking librarians.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that would be the cream of the crop.
Right. Who could better to fight a librarian than a librarian?
Exactly.
Also, Dulaque. I want more info. Is played by, for those who haven't noticed yet, Matt Frewer, who, if anybody's watching Orphan Black, he was on Orphan Black. He was Dr. Leakey, and he's not English. Just want to let everyone know that he is Canadian. But he, in this episode, when he had Santa's hat on him, and they were like, my Christmas wish would be that you kill Santa now and don't wait till midnight. Yeah. My Christmas wish is that Lamia leaves. Why don't we get rid of her? Okay. And then when Cassandra pushes it too far, was the greatest. I think that was the funniest moment of the entire episode.
Yeah. It's like, why don't you tell me your whole plan?
And how we defeat you.
Yeah.
No, too far. So great.
It's worth a shot, though.
It really was. It really was. And I feel like if she hadn't, the fans would have been like, why didn't anybody just ask him this?
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
A second runner-up to best line of the night was definitely, can you Google how to lower landing gear?
Yeah, it instills a lot of confidence, that does.
Yeah. They made me think about, when you Google specific things.
Mm-hmm.
So like how to pick a lock or, how to do specific things.
Right.
Those are flags.
Yes.
Those are red flags for like the NSA, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And Homeland. So when she said, can you Google how to put down landing gear? I was like, see, like to me, that's a flag.
Well, though her being in like a counterterrorism organization, I mean, she'd just be like, it's fine, guys. It's just me.
It's just me.
Yeah.
Using someone else's phone.
Totally.
Okay.
Code Alpha 07.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What did you think of Dulaque's plan to absorb all of Santa's powers by killing him? Not just in that was his plan, but the idea that you have to kill Santa to absorb his powers.
I thought it was like,
Yes.
I felt like it was just kind of like a piece of a bigger puzzle. Like, because it seems like the Serpent Brotherhood are essentially building up towards something.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw that when Magic came back, he was flooded with it. So, I mean, it makes you wonder what he's going to do with all the goodwill magic, especially because it seems like in Magic, a lot of the times there's like light magic and there's dark magic.
Right.
And he seems like a dark magic kind of guy. So to take all this light magic, it is puzzling as to why he would.
Yeah. I agree. And speaking of the light magic, dark magic, the idea that was also presented that if Santa doesn't get to do what he needs to at midnight and give out the hope, really give his gift, it would end Christmas and therefore end the world, in that no one would have hope and therefore no one would do good deeds anymore.
Right.
Which was such a to me, it was a little bit of a jump. A little bit, but it totally reminded me of Once Upon a Time this season with the shattered glass spell that makes everyone see the worst in others.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I could see how we could tie all these shows in together. Yeah.
The ultimate crossover.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I mean, technically anything with magic, you could just start throwing in there. You could be like, he meets Constantine, and then he goes to Storybrooke, hangs out in, I don't know, other magic places. Those are the first two that came to mind.
Okay. Grimm shows up.
Yeah, Grimm shows up, does a lot of stuff. There's a key. He holds a key.
Yeah.
There's always a key.
There's always a key. Okay. I think this was a really fun episode. And if you take out the fun and just leave the info, it was still a great episode.
Yeah.
So put those together, I would say a top-notch episode.
Yeah.
Top-notch.
It was really fun. I mean, all the characters did their thing. They're really growing into who they are. Especially Cassandra's character is really growing. She has so many different facets to her.
And her relationship with Stone, definitely.
Yeah.
Where she was, they were trying to figure out where Dulaque was. And he was like, no, just focus on the sounds. Focus on what you hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their relationship is growing really nicely. And I think I felt, and it may have been just me, a little bit between Stone and Lamia. So when they're in Dulaque's area, and they were there was a little bit of flirty banter. Yeah. So it wasn't just me.
Well, yeah, and he obviously, she made a comment, and he got, all
distracted.
Love-struck. Yeah. He had to be struck out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if at some point they ended up, being friends, more than friends.
Yeah.
Hanging out. Because I feel like that would bring a lot of good drama, because then it becomes he has given Cassandra so much guff for so much gruff for betraying them. But if he started getting in bed with Lamia, Lamia,
Yeah.
then it would be like, haha, you're a hypocrite.
Right. Ooh, I want to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get into predictions, I have a little news that I
Yeah?
want to share. Yeah. There it is.
TV News.
So first, I want to give a shout out to Lex Lane on Twitter. Thank you, Lex Lane on Twitter, for great commentary and links and such. Also, for those who missed it, the John Kim interview is still available. John Kim is the man who plays Ezekiel Jones. It is still available on the AfterBuzz Spotlight on YouTube. That's what I'm looking for. That's the word I'm looking for, is YouTube. But also, between last week and this week, John Rogers, one of the writers, the series writer, really the man behind the show. Amazing interview. He gave a lot of information about the show, about the characters, about the movies, where they're going, how we got to the show, how they got to what they want to do, where we're headed. Also, Leverage Scoop, because he also was part of that team. So if you're a Leverage fan, you have to listen to this interview. It's on iTunes and YouTube. He gave a lot of info, and he explained why Flynn is a little more goofy, I would say, than he was in the movies. He kind of points out that Flynn's been alone for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And, he's just been him in a library and then going on adventures.
Yeah.
So, of course, he's going to be a little more wackadoo.
Yeah, his best friend was a sword.
Right.
So,
And now his
might
sword
drive
is
you batty.
gone. Yeah. So check out those interviews. They're both available on AfterBuzz's YouTube and iTunes. All right, let's get into predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So in the next episode, Flynn is back. Yay!
Yay.
Also, we have dragons. It seems we're in Rome. And it looks like, and this may just be what I understood, but it looks like we get more backstory to Lamia and Dulaque of the Serpent Brotherhood. I hope so. Also, it looks like there's more kissing between Flynn and Baird.
Nice.
Yeah. So predictions, Tauri.
All right. I'm going to predict that we're going to get the backstory of the fall of Rome. It's going to be something super duper supernatural. Someone's going to ride a dragon at some point.
Someone's going to ride a
Someone's
dragon?
going to ride a dragon.
Okay.
I mean, you can't have a dragon in an episode without someone riding it. I feel like that's a rule.
I don't think it is.
It's unwritten. Don't worry.
I was going to say, no one ever rides the dragons on Game of Thrones.
Because they just got big enough, and they're also jerks.
Okay.
Did you see what they did to those sheep?
Yeah, I saw what they did.
But yeah, I am looking forward to getting more information on Dulaque because he's a really interesting character, and
Yeah.
so and just how he met Lamia. I think that will be really intriguing because she's like a seasoned killer. So I mean, how do you meet this lady who commands ninjas?
But she also totally takes orders.
Yeah.
She very much follows directions, which I think is rare.
Right.
And because she seems like she's kind of one of the main villains, but she's kind of not.
Yeah. Well, I think it seems like she does it out of respect. So maybe there's a dark library. I'm gonna hypothesize that there's a dark library. What? She was called. Awesome.
I like that idea a lot. We're halfway through the season, so I'm gonna predict that we have to get somebody's backstory, but a thorough backstory. And I feel like it's gonna be Baird. Because I feel like of the characters we're gonna start getting backstories for, we're gonna start with Baird.
Yeah.
And maybe some Dulaque. Oh,
Yeah.
I want to know.
Can I also predict, just series-wise, I'm hoping that at some point Cassandra loses her tumor, and then that causes her to lose her ability, and she has to kind of cope with that. That's a thing I want.
In the whole series or this season specifically?
This season specifically.
Oh. You think that'll happen within the next 4 episodes?
Could.
Okay.
You know? Flynn comes back and he's like, I can fix your tumor. Ba-bam! And then
She loses all her powers.
She loses all her powers.
Interesting.
Bam.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, I'm now thinking about that. I don't know what I predict, but I predict. Nope.
All right.
That's it. I got nothing.
You threw some stuff out.
Yes, yeah. I have a lot of series long predictions. More so, they're just I want to see this happen, as opposed to actual predictions.
Right. Well, someone's gonna ride a dragon. That's all you need.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna predict that no one's gonna ride a dragon.
Well, one of us is gonna be right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be me.
I disagree. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in, for sitting through this amazing after show with us. Yep. And thank you so much, Tauri, for joining me today.
No, thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell the people where they can find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at TauriJ. That's TaurijAY. And you can also find me on other panels here on AfterBuzz TV, like the Flash panel, the Arrow panel, and the Constantine panel.
Awesome. Thank you. You can find me online at Yael.tv. That's Yael.tv. There you'll find the interviews as well as other shows that I do here at AfterBuzz. If you follow me on Twitter, by Thursday, you can enter to win Doctor Who swag. I'm doing a giveaway. My Twitter is at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. And we will see you next week for more of The Librarians.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.